A year ago, I lent a large sum of money, $10,000, to my mother-in-law. I was supposed to get it back right away, but she kept finding excuses and didn't return it. Then one day, I received a message from my mother-in-law saying, "I'll give you back the $10,000, so come and get it." Although the repayment deadline had long passed, I thought it would be enough if she returned it. With that in mind, I went to meet her, completely unaware of what awaited me. My name is Vicky, and I'm 29 years old. After getting married, I quit the job I had, and now I work part-time at a cafe. I've been married to my husband, Val, for 3 years. We don't have any children yet. Since our marital home and my husband's parents' house are close by, I often visit my in-laws. Therefore, I have regular opportunities to see my parents-in-law. My father-in-law works for a top-tier company, and my mother-in-law is a homemaker. It was around a year after getting married, I suppose, that my mother-in-law's behavior started changing for the worse. The trigger was something trivial. One day, while I was cleaning at home, the intercom rang. When I opened the door, there stood my mother-in-law. "Mother-in-law, what's the matter?" "Vicky, I'm sorry for the sudden visit. I know it's an inconvenience." "No, it's all right. But what's the matter?" "Actually, I have something I'd like to discuss with you, Vicky." "Discuss with me?" My mother-in-law had a somewhat desperate look on her face. Worried, I decided to let her in and listen to what she had to say. "You see, I know it's sudden and all, but I need to borrow some money from you." "Money?" My mother-in-law is a homemaker, but with my father-in-law working for a top-tier company, there shouldn't be any income issues. For now, I decided to ask for the reason. "Mother-in-law, excuse me for asking, but what do you need the money for?" "Various things like replacing the walls in the house. We're not really financially stable right now." "I see. But you do receive a monthly allowance from that, right?" "Yes, but I misunderstood something and ended up spending it on something else. As a result, I can't afford to repaint the walls as planned this month. If things continue like this, your father will be angry with me." "Mother-in-law, please calm down. How much do you need for now?" I think it was around $3,000. $3,000? Please, Vicky, I have no one else to turn to. I promise I will pay you back $1,000 each month. Could you lend it to me? To be honest, $3,000 is not a small amount. It would be difficult to earn that much, and I don't have the financial flexibility to lend it. But seeing my mother-in-law genuinely struggling right in front of me, I couldn't just ignore the situation. "All right." "Really?" "Yes. In return, please make sure to stick to the monthly $1,000 repayment, okay?" "Of course, thank you, Vicky." My mother-in-law held my hand with joy. Seeing her like that, I thought it was good to be able to help. As she was leaving, my mother-in-law made a peculiar request. "You know, Vicky, about what happened today? Please don't mention it to your father-in-law." "I understand. I'll keep it a secret." "Thank you, and please don't tell the Val either." "Huh? Not even Val?" "If Val accidentally mentions it to your father, it'd be troublesome, right? That's why I want it to be our secret, just between you and me. Val isn't the type to blab about things, so I think it will be fine. but maybe my mother-in-law feels responsible for this situation. In that case, it might be better to keep quiet as she requested. With such thoughts in mind, I decided to uphold my promise with my mother-in-law. I spent some time without thinking too much about it, but even after 2 months, 3 months, there was no sign of the $3,000 being paid by my mother-in-law. 6 months later, since there was no sign of repayment, I decided to visit my in-laws directly. When I rang the doorbell, my mother-in-law's eyes widened in surprise upon seeing me, but she quickly returned to her usual smile and welcomed me inside. "Welcome, Vicky. Come on in." "Thank you for having me." I was led to the living room and sat directly in front of my mother-in-law. Just as I was about to speak, she quickly asked me, "Is it about the money?" "Yes, mother-in-law. You said you'd repay $1,000 each month, right?" "Yes, I remember." "I hate to bring this up, but it's been over 6 months now." At that moment, my mother-in-law covered her face with both hands and spoke. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I know it's bad, but things have been really difficult for me too." "I understand it's difficult, but remember, I didn't just give you that $3,000. I know. I will repay it properly. Please just wait a little longer." Seeing her crying in front of me, I couldn't press any further. On that day, I couldn't get the money back, so I went home silently. Since I made a promise with my mother-in-law, I couldn't tell my husband either. Ultimately, the $3,000 was repaid by my mother-in-law after about a year had passed. "Vicky, I'm sorry for the delay. Thank you." While I felt a bit frustrated, I understood that my mother-in-law must have been in a difficult situation as well. I told myself this and decided to let the matter rest. It was 6 months later when my mother-in-law approached me again asking for the money. This time, it was $10,000. I couldn't help but let out a surprised exclamation at the amount. $10,000? You must be joking. I wouldn't joke about something like this. Please, Vicky, I can only rely on you. Even if you say that $10,000 is... I understand that it's shocking, but I can't tell anyone else. I have no one else to turn to. That's why I need your help. Facing my crying mother-in-law, I didn't know what to do either. But there was no way I could lend such a large sum of money. Considering the previous delayed repayment, I found it difficult to nod my head in agreement. Mother-in-law, why do you need $10,000? Well, I can't lend you the money unless you at least tell me the reason. With a slightly stronger tone, I prompted her, and after a moment of silence, my mother-in-law slowly began to speak. Actually, I helped a friend. Helped? A certain friend fell seriously ill. They live alone and have no one to rely on. But they needed money for medical treatment, so they turned to me. So you lent them $10,000 for the medical expenses? Yes, but the $10,000 is my husband's money. I have to return it to the account as soon as possible. If that's the case, why don't you honestly talk to your husband about it? It's not like you did anything wrong. Then my mother-in-law slammed the table and stared at me with an intense gaze. That won't work. I have to return it right away. My husband is very strict about money. Even if it's not something bad, imagine what he would say if he came to light. But please, Vicky, I promise this will be the last time. I won't trouble you anymore. I will return the money immediately. So please, just this once. I knew that my father-in-law was strict when it came to money, and my mother-in-law lending money was an act of kindness towards her friend. Thinking the way, I couldn't dismiss my mother-in-law. I ended up reluctantly agreeing. Time passed and it had been a year since I lent $10,000 to my mother-in-law. The money still hadn't been returned, and there was no sign of it coming back. On top of that, I originally found out I was pregnant, and there would be a lot of expenses once the child was born. I wanted the $10,000 to be returned as soon as possible. However, being in the early stages of pregnancy, I couldn't easily go to my in-laws' house. Instead, I regularly kept in touch with my mother-in-law. At first, she would respond with messages like, "Just wait a little longer." But recently, there had been no communication at all. I wondered if she was unaware or intentionally ignoring me. Either way, things couldn't continue like this. Finally, I decided to discuss it with my husband. "Hey, Bob, can I talk to you for a moment? I've been keeping this to myself, but I lent the money to your mother." "To my mom? How much?" $10,000. "What? Are you kidding me? Why such a large sum? Did she force you to lend it?" "No, it's not like that. It seems she had her reasons too, and I agreed to lend it. But even after a year, she hadn't paid it back." "Are you serious? She borrowed it a year ago?" As I explained the details to my husband, he let out a deep sigh and started calling my mother-in-law. I could faintly hear her tearful voice over the phone, which caused a slight sense of guilt. However, my husband managed to persuade her and ensure a clean plan for repayment, so the situation was temporarily settled. The next day, I received a call from my mother-in-law, which was a rare occurrence. "Hello, Vicky? I asked you not to tell Belle, right? I'm sorry, but it's been a year since I lent you the money. Do you think I have no intention of paying you back? Despite everything I'm going through, I've been diligently preparing for payment. I didn't mean to imply that. It's just that I have a child on the way, and there will be financial needs in the future. I would appreciate it if you could repay me as soon as possible." "I understand that, but that doesn't mean you should go and tell it to Val, right?" She continued to blame and accuse me, and all I could do was apologize. "I'll pay you back, so don't contact me until then. And don't say anything unnecessary to Val, okay?" With those words, my mother-in-law abruptly ended the call. A few days later, I had a regular checkup for my child at the hospital. On my way back, I unexpectedly witnessed my mother-in-law entering a casino. From outside, I could see that she was gambling with a significant amount of money. Anger and confusion overwhelmed me. What on earth was happening? She didn't return the money, yet she's at the casino. Could it be that she had spent all the previous borrowed money on gambling? Troubled by these thoughts, I decided to hire a detective to investigate my mother-in-law's background. As expected, it was revealed that she had accumulated debts due to her gambling habit. In the moment, an intense rage assumed me. I couldn't believe it. She lied to me, borrowed money, and now she is indulging in a casino? It was no joke. I would never forgive her. I was determined to make sure she repaid every cent. I had my husband call her again regarding this matter, and a few days later, she sent me texts, probably realizing the seriousness of the situation. I have the full amount I borrowed ready, so come and get it. To borrow money from someone and say such things. It sounded suspicious, but my primary focus was on getting the $10,000 back. I was determined to make her apologize. With that mindset, I headed to my in-law's house. As soon as I arrived, my mother-in-law looked at me with a dissatisfied expression. My father-in-law was unexpectedly present in the living room, his expression tense. Awkwardly, my mother-in-law took out an envelope. "Vicky, here you go. Let me check it, please." I opened the envelope, took out the contents, and slowly examined each bill, making sure that the $10,000 was there. Suddenly, my father-in-law glared at me with a stern expression. "Hey, even though we helped you, what's with that attitude?" "Helped me? Who? By whom?" "Can't you at least say thank you? How rude." Beside my father-in-law, my mother-in-law turned pale and became flustered. I immediately understood the situation. My mother-in-law had portrayed me as the villain and managed to obtain this $10,000 from my father-in-law. Hearing that her wrongdoing would be exposed, she quickly came up with a story that I was in financial trouble. My mother-in-law desperately tried to calm the situation. "Please, let's calm down. Vicky didn't have any ill intentions." "What are you saying? Asking for $10,000 because you are having a baby and have no money? That's incredibly unreasonable." "But you know, they say giving birth can be expensive these days. That's something a couple should figure out on their own. Besides, why isn't Belle here? That idiotic son of mine." My father-in-law blamed me as if it were all my fault. Unable to bear it any longer, I finally decided to reveal the truth. "With all due respect, father-in-law, I didn't come here to borrow money. I lent $10,000 to your wife. Today, I came to collect it." "Huh? What are you talking about?" "I said it just now. Today, I came to collect the $10,000 I lent to your wife." "What do you mean?" My father-in-law widened his eyes, clearly confused by my words. On the other hand, my mother-in-law, swearing nervously, desperately tried to restrain me. Ideally, I would have received the money back from my mother-in-law, and that would be the end of it. But this time, things were different. My mother-in-law had been dependent on gambling with my money and even borrowed money, leading her into debt. "Father-in-law, I will be straightforward about this. Your wife owes me $13,000. I've received $3,000 back out of that, but today I've come to collect the remaining $10,000. I didn't come here seeking help." "What's going on? Didn't you say that Belle and you were struggling with the childbirth expensive?" Confronted my father-in-law, my mother-in-law trembled and couldn't lift her face. Taking over for her, I explained. "It seems like your wife has debt, and the cause is the casino." "What? Debt from the casino?" She pretended as if she genuinely needed money and borrowed it from me, but it turns out she used it for gambling. I don't know if she used my $10,000 for the casino or if she applied it to the debts she incurred from gambling. Is this true? If it is, you should apologize to Vicky immediately. Interrupting my father-in-law's words, I continued. "Regardless, I can't forgive her. I'm sorry, but after today, I will sever ties with your wife." The word sever ties seemed to shock my mother-in-law, and she leaned forward, pleading tearfully. "Wait, Vicky, it's not what you think. There's a reason for this." "What's different?" The fact remains that you are in debt and used my money for gambling, right? And to top it up, you made me out to be the villain, forcing father-in-law to come up with the money. I have no intention of continuing as a family with someone like you. That's why there's a reason for this. Shut up, you have no sense of propriety. No matter how much you suffer, I won't help you. In fact, I'll never see you again. Go ahead and suffer with your debts or whatever, you damn gambling addict. I put the envelope with $10,000 into my bag and left my in-law's house. I would never return to this house again. That's what I swore in my heart. That night, my mother-in-law came to my house to apologize. She sobbed and prostrated herself. I looked at her with a cold gaze. I'm sorry, truly sorry. Apologies are unnecessary. Neither my husband nor I have any intention of forgiving you. Please don't say that. If you and Paul don't forgive me, your father won't either. I'm sorry, but could you leave right now? You're causing trouble. Mom, it's too late. I can't protect you anymore. Go home. Saying that, my husband forcefully escorted my mother-in-law out. In the end, it seems my father-in-law announced a divorce to her. However, they won't divorce immediately. It will happen after my father-in-law is fully repaid the $10,000 he provided. Thus, my mother-in-law, fearing the impending divorce, started working from morning till night. She, who was a homemaker, now had to earn her own living. It's undoubtedly a harsh reality. Since then, my husband and I haven't seen my mother-in-law. We deleted her contact information and moved closer to my husband's workplace. We will never see my mother-in-law again. But there is no loneliness, because a new life was born into our family. Now, the three of us live happily together with our child. If this child gets married in the future, I will make sure not to become a mother-in-law like mine. With that vow in my heart, I held my child tightly.